So welcome everyone. We're going to start in just a few minutes once everyone's had a chance and the opportunity to join us through the link. Just want to introduce myself. My name is Mark Rodriguez, and I'm the Assistant Dean of Students and Director of Student Leadership Involvement and Community Engagement here at Occidental. We've also got several colleagues from admissions working behind the scenes during today's presentation. So we're hoping that you can use the Q&A feature if you have any questions at all during this session. If the question hasn't already been addressed in the presentation, then we're either going to provide a quick answer to that or share it with the panelists during our open Q&A at the end of this session. There's not going to be time to answer every question today, so we want you to keep your eye on that chat box. We're going to be providing some web links as we go along so that you know where to get more information about what we're talking about here during these sessions between now and you're moving to Oxy. So again, welcome to our second Road to Oxy webinar. We're so very excited to have you all back. And we know that this isn't the best time zone for everyone, so we really appreciate you for making it to the Zoom today. We can't wait for opportunities for all of you all to meet each other in person and more on that to come. And as a reminder, we're going to share this recording of this session with everyone tomorrow. So make sure you keep a lookout for that link. I'm going to give you a few reminders to start us off, and it's about the new student guide. Now, hopefully, you've already become very familiar with our new student website and specifically our new student guide. As we reviewed at our last webinar, the new student guide is online only. This allows you to see any updates in real time, and it's the first stop to get all of your questions answered for the summer and for the coming school year. In addition to that, I want to point out the checklist, the to-do, that timeline. Now consider this your cheat sheet to the entire new student guide. All deadlines and forms will be summarized here as they're confirmed with our campus partners. Now let's get down to business. I want to introduce everyone to Monique Hankerson, Associate Director of Housing Services, who's going to give us an overview of first-year residence policies and move-in. Monique, please take it away.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening, afternoon, depending upon where you are. My name is Monique Hankerson, and I am the Associate Director of Housing Services in our Residential Education and Housing Services Department. So I'm going to go over some very important things. One, welcome. We're so happy that you all will be joining us this fall. The housing application recently closed. It closed on July 1st. So all of you should have submitted your preferences down to the point of your guests, quiet hours, and what you're looking for in a roommate in relation to compatibility. All of that information was on the housing application. So we will be getting to those very shortly. It will take a substantial amount of time based upon everyone's needs that are listed on that application. So housing assignments will be available by the end of the first week of August. All of that was done in the eRes Life portal, which is where you will find that information. eRes Life will become your major hub for a lot of communication from REHS. We're talking about room condition reports, your housing assignment, your roommate information, how to create roommate groups. You can still create roommate groups up until this time. So all of that will be housed in eRes Life. So use it as a resource. Under the resources and bulletins tab, you'll find the floor plans for some of our residence halls, and also a copy of the housing license agreement for 22-23. Now, as I said, you can create a roommate group. If you don't know what that is, it's the roommate and room assignment information. So say you have connected with someone and you're like, oh my goodness, this would be a really great person to live with this fall. You can log into eRes Life as listed in the instructions that you can still find on the new student in the new student guide, and you can create a roommate group. Now, Creating a roommate group does not guarantee that you will get that particular room type. But if you do find someone that you are really compatible with, feel free to sign up together. And as long as you both accept that you would like to live with one another, there is no problem. I'm sorry, I'm going down the list. We have on the housing application, we have themed living communities. So those are these very intentional spaces where students may want to participate in a concentrated activity group. We call them affinity spaces. So we have women's scholars. We also have it's Baldwin House. We have gender inclusive housing as well. So if you listed that you want to participate in one of those themed living communities on your housing application, we will read through everyone's applications and do our best to place as many students as possible within those communities, as there's very limited spacing. Now, disability housing accommodations. That is managed, of course, through the Office of Disability Services. And if a student has a housing accommodation need, a medical housing accommodation need, our office is actually not the first office that you would contact. You would contact Disability Services, and you'll see the link within the new student guide. This is the housing accommodation policy, and then you will submit all of that information. You still have some time to submit, even though the deadline was July 1st, excuse me, for new and transfer students. However, if you are approved, you will be placed on the housing accommodation wait list. And if something becomes available, I will do my best to honor that request. As it says, we do have limited spaces for some transfer students. And again, if a transfer student who has recently been accepted would like to sign up for housing, you will then be placed on the transfer housing wait list. And once something becomes available, we will do our best again to place you in housing. But you are feel free to reach out to ResEd at oxy.edu if you have any additional questions around that. Move-in is the 22nd. And so you will see all of us right there down at the academic quad. I know that this has been discussed previously, but I look forward to seeing all of you there. Roommate contacts. I'm sorry, I wanted to step back a moment about roommates. When you log, you'll be able to, when you receive your official housing assignment, you will be able to reach out to that person through their Oxy account, their Oxy email. So you can reach out. I know some students will look on Facebook and also look on Instagram. I have seen that as well, but you can also email a student directly through their Oxy accounts, to their Oxy account. The residence halls. One of the best things about living on campus, even in my own experience, was connecting with my community, connecting with people within my residence halls and other residence halls, and having our resident advisors, our RAs, leading the helm in that way is one of the things that I absolutely love about working in residential education and housing services. We have 52 RAs for our 17 unique residence halls. And what I find the most rewarding is to see how they each individually attack creating wonderful communities within each building. So you will find that, of course, you'll learn more about that during orientation, especially when you arrive to campus and what that looks like. So I'm looking forward to all of you meeting our next class of RAs. What is in each room? It is the same in each room. We have an extra large bed. We have a dresser. Now, some of the residence halls have dressers that slide under the beds or in their stackables. You have a mattress, of course, a desk and a chair. And that is in every single one of our rooms. And then also each room comes with a micro fridge. What is not allowed and what is prohibited? So of course, I think you all should check out the amenities chart and what to bring and what not to bring. That is right there on the screen. When I tell you, you can bring tons of stuff. However, we do have a list of prohibited items. And we scroll down, we can see candles, incense, oil burners, extension cords longer than 10 feet, pets, large pieces of additional furniture. Please do not bring those things, especially when we talk about, I haven't seen a waterbed in a very long time, but please don't bring a waterbed. Large speaker systems, barbecues, personal wireless routers, any gas-powered equipment, toasters. Those are a part of our prohibited items as well. No, you cannot bring your own refrigerator, as there is a shared micro fridge in the room. And no air conditioners. I'm sorry, but we cannot bring, we can't have air conditioners in residence halls that do not have AC. Excuse me, packing tips. So if you have, as some people will ship some of their items to campus, and you're able to do that beginning the middle, of July. I just spoke with our post office and they are anticipating all of the packages that we see every single academic year. However, you are able to send some of those things prior to your arrival to campus. And please don't bring as much as you possibly can to fit into your cards. It's great for you to wait until you get to campus to really get to at the opportunity, one, to look at your room, to see how everything fits. And then we have Target, Walmart, Bed Bath and Beyond, excuse me, and all of these stores quite close to campus where you'll be able to pick up additional items. Please, of course, reach out to your roommates so you are not bringing the same things. Oh, we have 4 trash cans, 3 different rugs. I have seen that happen before. So communication is key when it means bringing items to campus. Last piece that I am going to touch on, it's the personal property insurance. So on the housing application at the bottom, it lists, are you interested in signing up for personal property insurance, excuse me. And that is through the company GradGuard. GradGuard is also the company that manages our tuition insurance. We've had great support and results from GradGuard. And the information, I'm going to make sure that the website where it says personal property insurance is updated to reflect the link to the GradGuard Oxy page. So I'll make sure that that is done. And it's as little as, I believe, $13 a month, which is listed on the housing application. But it is great in case anything happens, always important to have those items. And so I think that concludes everything that I have to share with everyone.
Right on. Thanks, Monique. And I was loving those pictures too. I mean, check out those vinyls. Definitely bring vinyl because we definitely do vinyl swap. We place them in the quad with K-Oxy. So, you know, when you think about things that you want to bring and also about things that you want to pick up, Remember too that there is transportation off of campus to some of these spaces like Target. So Bengal Bus, for example, throughout the academic year is going to be doing some of those runs as well. So know that you have those opportunities to pick up those extra things in the first few weeks of classes and while you're on campus as well. So just kind of wanted to mention that. And then also too, we have Devon Sakamoto here, who is the Assistant Dean of Students for the Emmons Wellness Center. Devon's going to give us an overview of health insurance and Emmons services in general. So Devon, thanks so much for sharing space. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Marcus. And hello, everyone. Thanks for having me. My name is Devon Sakamoto. I'm the Assistant Dean of Students for Emmons Wellness Center, which you can see here on our screen. Emmons is Oxy's Student Wellness Center. We're an integrated health center, so we provide both primary care and psychological counseling and therapy services. We also manage the Occidental health insurance plan, the student health insurance plan, and we have a large role in COVID safety planning and COVID testing and kind of everything COVID related. So I want to talk about COVID first, and then I'll get into a little bit more about the health insurance and just general services at Emmons. So on this page, there's actually, if you go to the health and safety page instead of the health insurance page, yeah, that one. And then if we just scroll down a little bit, there's a little bit about COVID safety and a link to this Back at Oxy website, which is going to be really helpful. We don't always know what's going to happen with COVID in the future, but we always put our most recent updates, our policies, our testing guidelines, our vaccine requirements, everything is on this page. So that's a good one to bookmark and just kind of keep an eye out for. So all that to say, we can't predict what's going to happen in fall in terms of COVID positivity on campus. And the guidelines that we'll have in place, but this website is a good one just to keep your eye on. We'll keep that updated. I'll let you know kind of what we've done in the past and how we're managing COVID now, and a little bit about the fall semester. So we are requiring students to test negative for COVID prior to arriving on campus for move-in. So you'll receive more information as it gets closer to move-in about how to do that, when you should take the test, what kind of tests are acceptable. So that will be, all students will be required to do that. We also require that all students, as well as our staff and faculty, are vaccinated and boosted against COVID. And we require proof of vaccination prior to arrival on campus. You've received an email about all of the health forms. All of those health forms, including vaccination proof, of COVID and all of the other immunizations, all of those forms are due through the student portal on August 1st. Again, so COVID doesn't seem to be going anywhere, but it's also unpredictable. And we've done a really good job over the last year managing COVID. So we do our best to monitor the case positivity and the different variants that arise within LA County. We talk with other colleges in the area, and we take a lot of our safety guidance from LA County Public Health. So currently Oxy has an indoor mask mandate. So except when you're eating or except when you're in a room alone or with your roommate, everybody should be masked indoors. We watch LA County's mask requirements and their policies. And looking at our own campus positivity rates, we may throughout the year either relax or reinstate a stricter masking guideline. We really just watch what's going on campus for that. But right now, masking indoors is required. Emmons Wellness Center provides PCR testing on campus for COVID right now in the summer, 3 days a week. And we have medical staff who can administer rapid antigen tests as needed. We have mandatory weekly testing for anybody who is unvaccinated against COVID. And we might recommend in the fall that certain groups of students test weekly or test on a regular schedule. And usually these are students in higher risk groups, like student athletes who are in frequent close contact with each other, often unmasked, depending on the sport. And so testing might look similar to that in the fall. We're still finalizing plans for that, but our focus is really going to be testing people who are exposed to COVID or who are experiencing symptoms. So those are going to be our primary focus for testing. And isolation protocols, just a little bit about isolation. We follow the LA County guidelines for COVID isolation, which is a little bit stricter than the CDC guidelines. CDC requires a mandatory 5 days of isolation, and then, depending on the severity of the disease, you can get out of isolation. We have that, but there's it's between a 5 and 10 day isolation. So we are contacting every student who tests positive for COVID. We're monitoring their symptoms. We're checking in to see how they're doing, and we're contact tracing them to make sure that we can contact other students, staff or faculty on campus who might have been exposed to a positive case. And so we work really closely with Monique and the res ed staff, who are amazing and doing a lot of the work for COVID isolation. We also work really closely with the dining staff to ensure that students have meals delivered. They're not allowed to leave. If they're COVID positive, they're not allowed to leave their room to go get meals or to go to class. So they get meals delivered. We also work really closely with the Dean of Students office. They can contact professors if needed, if students have certain academic accommodations that need to be made because they can't leave their room to go to class. So we have those relationships and those kind of collaborations in place. And so while the COVID guidelines and policies and the testing and a lot of it falls to Emmons, there's so much collaborative work that's going on and so many people and departments that are working to keep students healthy and safe. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. And so, isolation and masking and testing throughout the year, it might change, right? So we appreciate everybody's flexibility as our safety guidelines evolve and as we monitor the campus and the surrounding area positivity rates. And just a little note, last year we had a couple of surges in positivity, but none of it was traced back to on-campus activity. So while they're here, we're doing our absolute best to keep them healthy and safe. Most of our campus positivity was from off-campus activities. All right, so moving away from COVID a little bit. Yeah, and Courtney's providing some great links there in the chat, thank you. So we can go to the health insurance page. This one is really handy. Again, you should have received an email about health insurance. All students who live on campus must have some sort of health insurance. And the health insurance your student has must cover primary care services in the LA County area. So you can either opt in to keep students' existing, healthcare coverage if it meets the requirements. That's fine. In which case the student would need to opt out of the Oxy student health insurance plan. Otherwise, students are automatically enrolled in the Oxy student health insurance plan through United Healthcare. So every year, students need to fill out an application to opt out of that health insurance. And if you scroll down just a tiny bit more on this page, I think that there is the link there, jcbins.com. That's where you can go to opt out of our health insurance and provide us with the information of what insurance you are opting to keep instead. The deadline for that, and so maybe we can update this website, but the deadline for the health insurance waiver is August 15th this year. And then really quickly, just services at Emmons, other things that we do besides health insurance and COVID monitoring. So I mentioned before, we're an integrated center. We have nurse practitioners who provide primary care services, preventative care. They treat illnesses and minor injuries. We have a psychiatrist and a nutritionist that we work with frequently that students can meet with. And our counseling center is staffed with therapists who provide individual therapy and group therapy and case management. And those are offered both in person and virtually. The virtual appointments continue to be really popular even after students returned to campus. They found the virtual appointments to be really helpful, so we have kept those. We have walk-in hours. It should not be an issue for students to get an appointment for either healthcare, primary care, or therapy at Emmons. So we encourage students to reach out as soon as they are in need of any kind of health services. Emmons also provides programming and trainings around general well-being and mental health. And we also manage Oxy's 24-hour mental health crisis helpline. So students can access critical mental health services even after hours, as Emmons is open like a normal medical office, Monday through Friday, kind of a 9 to 4 schedule. I think that is all that I have, Marcus.
Devon, thank you so very much. Always crucial information. And I really want to just celebrate everything that you're doing. Devon is the chair of our COVID operations group on campus. So keeping that conduit for us and that pipeline of communication open, not just between similar small colleges in the area, but also too with the county and those experts in the field. So knowing that you're also keeping us safe as a campus community, but also an active participant too with the campus events advisory committee, because what we want to do is have programs and involvement opportunities for our students who want to be safe about it. So we're thinking about it in a myriad of ways, y'all, about how to stay safe. And so, Devon, thank you so very much for offering that. We know that we're excited for an in-person experience, but I want you to all know that we're constantly having conversations about how to pivot in need be to make sure, first and foremost, this is a dynamic onboarding experience and an orientation that's going to be unforgettable for you as a student and for families as well. And so now that I see everybody's on screen, please go ahead, start putting your cameras on, and we're going to join each other in a group here, all the panelists. And what we want to do, I've seen the Q&A, it's been busy. So thanks so much for the admissions folks that have been answering questions. But there are some that have remained in the Q&A that I want to make sure that we get asked and answered. And so I wanted to start with you, Devon. Are parents required to test before helping students move in as well? And Monique, you may want to chime in on this as well, because this may also, and if we don't have the answers complete right now too, that we're thinking about how many people, even if it's just parents, can there be family members within the res halls as they're moving in, et cetera. So I kind of want to open the space first. Devon, are parents required to test before helping students move in? And then sort of us thinking about how many family members should be in and around the space. So Devon?
Yeah, I can start with a little bit with, I believe that we are asking those who attend family orientation to provide, to get tested before they arrive. That is the extent that I know is for that. I'm not sure if Monique has other information to add about that, but more information to come for sure.
I was going to say, no, I don't have any additional information beyond what Devon shared.
Yeah. And we're working on kind of the testing guidelines and the return to campus this month. And we anticipate probably early August, we'll be sending out communication campus-wide to new incoming students that will tell them all of this information. Yeah, but we do anticipate family orientation. Yes, parents should test before they arrive. We just don't want people to arrive on campus who have COVID. So.
Most definitely too. We also know that, when we talk about masking guidelines, and then too, just looking at what our expectations are in regard to, the res halls and access to those, and those have changed, of course, when we talk about, those expectations as far as deadlines. So I did want to, speaking of deadlines, I want to talk about those a little bit too. Somebody had a question, are all deadlines already included on that checklist? Now we're talking about the checklist page, and I think that answer has been typed into that person's specific area. But if it hasn't, if deadlines change, I want folks to know that, again, the new student guide and the pages that are associated with those are constantly being updated. What we're trying to do as well is give people prompts if new information is provided online, that you all know about that. In addition, it's important to note that all communication that's been going out from admissions, that's also cataloged there as well. So there's a whole separate page that is every bit of communication that's gone out to students and families. And again, if you feel like you missed some information, and I encourage you to visit those pages as well. We've got some questions here that are going to be answered. Does a COVID test at move-in have to be a PCR, or is it a rapid test? Is that okay, Devon?
Those are good questions we have not answered yet. So that will be, you will get instructions on what types of tests are acceptable. Definitely PCR will be acceptable, and we're working to see if the rapid test would also be acceptable. And then there's specific timeframes that you should take the test before arriving to campus. So all of that will be in the communication we send.
Okay, fantastic. Thanks so much for that, Devon, too. And then when we talked about masking and then things that may or may not change specifically in Los Angeles, and just thinking about vaccine and who's able to get the vaccine now, we're living in a very different world than we were last summer. And again, so I just want to say that when we're talking about these communications, that information is going to be updated. We'll let you all know. And again, that goes for LA Engage, which is a pre-orientation program that has a separate move-in date. Thank you to admissions who answered some questions in regard to that separate move-in. Know that these components, though, whether you're moving in on the 20th or you're moving in on the 22nd, they're still going to have these same areas where you do check in that welcome center, two of which are the most important on this call, which is going to be the Emmons table and which is going to be the Res Ed table as well. So those, as well as checking in for your key card as well, are going to be crucial to you being a part of being enveloped in the move-in experience. And so again, more information to come and we'll let you know. There's a couple of other questions come in here. Let's see. What if I test upon arrival and the student test is positive?
Sure. Well, at this point, we're not planning to test people upon arrival. So if you test at home and you're positive, then you should not arrive on campus, and you should make plans to isolate per the CDC guidelines for the 5 days and show up after that.
This is a good question too, as far as I can answer, just as far as new student orientation expectations. Say, for example, that you're ready to come on campus, you've been testing negative, you're getting ready, you test positive, but you're planning on coming to new student orientation. What do I do? Just stay in contact with me. And again, you've got my contact information. We can put it in the chat at the end as well, along with some others here. But what we want to make sure and do is that you are not left out of a new student orientation experience. So again, know that we are planning for every possible scenario and outcome. So if a student does test positive before coming onto campus, there is going to be an incorporative and an experience for an orientation process. Here's a question about Emmons that just got answered. It's about counseling, though. I kind of want to go back to that too. This is an important question. Devon, can you talk a little bit more about how a person would make an appointment to have a counseling session and what that looks like? And as far as bandwidth of the counselors, just that experience walking through a new student who may want to seek those services.
Yeah, any student can walk into Emmons to get a counseling appointment. They might not be able to be seen exactly at that minute, but we have walk-in appointments available. If students are a little bit nervous about that, maybe walking in seems a little bit stigmatized, or maybe they're just a little bit nervous to walk into a new place, especially a medical facility. Our email is the best way. Email or phone, you can email, you can ask for a specific type of appointment. You can specify that you want an in-person appointment with a therapist. You can specify that you're hoping to get a virtual appointment, so you can do it, via Zoom, if that's something that the student wants. And I saw that somebody else had a question about kind of the number of sessions. And really, we are a short-term, like a brief intervention model of therapy. So students, we're not checking off like, okay, you used all your 6 sessions or your 8 sessions, but it is a model of, helping students and kind of revolving the students out. So if somebody is in need of more long-term care, then we absolutely have the resources to be able to refer them to somebody in the local area.
Okay, fantastic, Devon. I appreciate that. And I think these other questions are going to be answered that are in Q&A, and they just have to do with the move-in timeframe. So again, I want to direct folks back to that new student orientation page. That new student guide also references that link as well. But there's going to be a ton of information there. And we've been really intentional, not just about being transparent about our intended outcomes, but the experience as a whole. And so you'll have all of those timeframes located there on that page. So we're trying to lessen anxiety when you're coming onto campus. There's going to be a ton of support staff, including our good friends at Campus Safety, directing folk where to park. And then once you park your vehicle, coming into the welcome area on the quad, and we're just literally going to have it spelled out station by station, 1 through 5, those stops that you have, so that you quickly move through the welcome center process, pick up some great swag on the way too. We got some wonderful giveaways for both family and students, and then you get into your dorm situation. So the schedule literally is played out so that it's a relaxing, inviting, and celebratory atmosphere. And again, you can contact us after you look at that page. Any sort of clarifications that we can offer, we encourage you to engage with us prior to you coming on campus. We want to answer those questions for you. And so again, I want to say thank you to everyone. There's a lot that we've gone over. And one of the things that I want to do before we close out is go right back to this web page here and talk about summer send-offs. We look forward to seeing as many of you as possible at summer send-off receptions. So in the chat, you're going to see a link to that. And I want you to visit that so you can be a part of it. And I also want you to know that the recording of today's webinar is going to be posted on the new student webpage tomorrow. And there's going to be an email that links people to that as well. So a huge thanks to all the staff who've been working behind the scenes to answer all these questions. Thank you to all the panelists, all the participants. If there's questions that you still feel like you need to be answered, reach out to us. Again, we want to make sure that you look at us as part of your support system at Oxy. We couldn't be more excited to see you all in the fall. Thank you so much for your attendance. Talk to you, see you, and embrace you all soon. Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.